Can you imagine if artists in rap were only positive? Meaning artists, whoever they were, it doesn't matter what level they are, known artists, commercial artists, independent artists, only made positive rap. Is that possible? Do people even want that? Do people even have the capacity to only hear rap from a positive standpoint? It doesn't matter what subjects are being spoken of, but rap is just positive every time you hear it. I thought about this. I thought about all the years that I've listened to music from all sorts of backgrounds and all sorts of styles and genres, right? And I thought, I've listened to music from a street perspective from rappers. I've listened to music from party records. I've listened to music in all kind of realms when it comes to rappers. But imagine if there was just rap where it's positive. I think it will struggle, but I think it's possible at the same time. I think as humans, we're so used to what we see in the world, which is we see some good stuff, we see some bad stuff, that our disposition is to be open to both. And I think having artists who only rap from a positive standpoint, a lot of people may push back on it. Although we may claim that we want a better world and we want a better existence, we want better for our kids. You know, we've heard those terms. We want better for our kids. We want better for society. But I guess this question is mainly around rap, but it could be around just in general. Do we want positive environments and positive things? But in rap, do we want it? Are we going to complain about the fact that rap can sometimes be a bit boring if it's too positive, if it's too nice? Because I thought about it, you know, and I thought we've had music, for example, back in the day, gangster rap was a thing. I wasn't a fan of the title gangster rap, but it was just a way to describe rappers who were from the street or spoke from a street perspective and a street element. Okay. That was big. It became big, particularly early 90s and in mid 90s, all the way to what we have today, where we see rappers from a street perspective, you know, being known, right? And managing in this game. But imagine now with the rappers out today, any rapper who's known, who's popular, and an independent artist coming up, whenever you heard rap, it doesn't matter from the US, from the UK, from Europe, anywhere around the world, all you got was positive remarks, positive subjects. Is that too big to comprehend? Or, as I was saying earlier, is it based on maybe people saying, I don't want this a bit too much like this because it's a bit too positive? You know, are we just naturally used to, the environment sometimes that we can come from, and we just accept it and say, hey, this is where we are. It's not the best sometimes, but we're going to make the most of it. Or we're just going to make songs that are showing what's around our environments. But do we have to make songs only based on the issues around it? Or can we put positive spins on it and fans gravitate to it, labels, and make that thing be popular? Is that possible? Are we ready for the mental shift that's going to be required to get to that point? You know, these are just questions, or these are just things I think of and I've thought of, and I thought, let me make a video on this. And if you're at the moment watching it, like the video, because I'm trying to bring something that is trying to think, you know, you're trying to make people think a little bit. But at the same time, let me look at it like this, or let's look at this artist, Kendrick Lamar, right? We know one of the main guys, one of the highest selling, along with other artists as well. Only a few in that kind of highest selling environment. He makes rap about all sorts. You know, he's quite versatile in what he speaks on. He can be considered someone that is positive in his rap, right? Until he becomes competitive when he needs to become competitive and he's ready to, you know, assert himself as one of the best. But in terms of his general subject matter, he can be considered that. Now, imagine if there were other artists who at the moment are maybe out there, not known as much, but they are pushed in a similar way to Kendrick. They are out there doing their thing, and they're saying, you know what, I'm going to stand on what I'm standing on, and I'm going to get, hopefully, the sort of support he gets. Are fans ready to give other opportunities, other support that's required for the independent artist who speaks positively to be viable? So they are financially viable. So they can sell merch, they can sell records. Are artists going to have that support from the fans to get to that level so they can look at positive rap as being a way out? Because a lot of the time, street rappers will look at a way out because they've seen different moments where street rappers have managed to, make a way into the game. So there's always a way out for them. But the positive rapper, who sometimes gets frowned upon, who sometimes gets put in categories as soft, weak, or backpack, or squares, can we push those rappers, change our mind over years of what is cool, particularly in our environments, and you know the environments I'm talking about, environments that inner city people come from, hood environments. Can we change over the years what we deem as cool so more doors are open for all types of rappers who want to speak positively, but they feel they can't because they've seen what has generally worked over the years, whether it's for the women, scantily clad, speaking about stuff that they do, with dudes in certain ways. Is that maybe a hindrance on women as well, who maybe want to speak from a positive perspective? Do we support as fans enough, as music people, as DJs, whoever? Do we support enough those up and comings that could be good enough to show that, hey, I'm speaking about something different, it's positive? Or are we going to be continually just, making the same sort of assessments on the artists that we see who are from one sort of, style, which is generally the style that we've seen over the years, which will be from a street style or street perspective? So it's just me posing questions, thinking, what ways are possible for positive rap to be a thing? Not saying any artist should not make what they want to make. If someone has a mentality thinking, oh, but I came from the struggle, so I'm only going to speak about the struggle, that's fine. That's up to you. But I don't think that's the only way you can express yourself. So I'm thinking, what ways are possible? And these are things I'm just coming up with. Thinking there has to be a conversation maybe about how things are done, especially for you independent artists, because independent artists are the ones that can take things into their own hands. When you're with a label, you're basically doing what the label kind of wants until you maybe get to that level where you can call a bit of the shots to an extent. But you independent artists, I know there's independent artists that want to speak about certain things in a certain way and want to be maybe, positive or less, less of the same of what we've seen over the years that works, right? What can make a positive rapper come out and it works for them? It takes support, because I'll be fair, we as people who listen to music, I do produce music as well in terms of from a beat standpoint, we can be complicit when we listen to artists only from one perspective or a couple of perspectives, which will be mainly street, which will be at times, around that kind of style. Or it could be other styles, like I said, like a Kendrick, Lamar type level or style. But other than that, do we give enough credence to the ones that have the ability, that don't want to rap about the same old stuff, but want to show that there is a form of like hope, in their subject matter? They speak about different things, but they want to speak about it only positively. The only way that's going to happen also, as a potential for future artists to do that, is if family units improve, if family structures improve. So, two-parent household environments, growing up in those environments, when creatives, kids are born in those environments, there's a chance that they would only speak on what's good, what is positive, what is, you know, I would say, what is positive? Let me keep it as that. There's a chance they will only speak about that because of the fact that they've been raised a certain way. The communities they're raised in, hopefully, will, like I say, if family units improve, the communities they're raised in will improve conditions because all they're seeing now is good, not just kids running wild without parental sort of coverage on them. They're now getting into an environment where they're forced in a way to speak from a positive standpoint. You know, they're inspired to. Again, that's not to say if you're from an environment that's not, you know, the best, you can only speak from a negative standpoint. I believe you can speak from a standpoint where you're having that kind of motivation to come out, that motivation to want to do more than what your current experience is, you know, if it's not the best. So I will think that is a way of making the potential of positive rap to come from the future generations if family units are improved, parenting is improved at a way where there's two people who definitely wanted to have those kids. So then as time goes on, they become maybe creatives and then they're able to lead the line into this potential positive rap. I'll give you an example also. I remember years ago when Pharrell, I know it's not rap, but Pharrell came out with Happy. It got to a point where I remember I come across people even online or whatever saying that they were even getting bored of that song because it was too happy. It was too positive. It got to a point where the song was successful, it sold a lot, but the human mind was just like, yo, this is getting a bit too nice. It's a bit too annoying as time goes on. So are we even in that state to say, this is what we want? We want something good, but do we really want it over long periods? You know, we've got to question that because that was one example I remember. I remember even rappers back in the day. There was a rapper called Skilo. He had a hit. I think it was, I wish I was a little bit taller. I wish I was. A rapper like that, he made a funny song, right? But the song banged, the beat and everything. He wouldn't have been considered a rapper that was cool because he kind of made a self-deprecating song to an extent, right? But someone like that and some songs like that, I'm not saying that one has to be the benchmark of it, but I'm saying that's an example. Songs like that, those are the songs that are considered maybe, okay, yeah, we hear it, it's cool for the moment, but where's that other stuff that I want to, you know, go crazy to an extent? Where's that song? I just want to, you know what I mean, get my head moving and something that is just very simple or, you know, street related again. So again, this is not to make a complete damning verdict on the street rappers because, hey, we're all complicit. I've heard them over the years. I've listened to them. But my point is, are people ready? Do you even want the potential of something that is the opposite of that is positive? Because I've heard enough of the conversation of wanted improvements, but we, the fan or the person that likes music, has to have a stance as well, has to say, hey, I've been complicit up to this point listening to certain types of music. Okay, let's find out and let's try and push the people that could be, firstly, good enough lyrically, and on top of that, have the right, you know, production value for the music that we can then, you know, that people can then support. When I was younger, that's when I was more of like, you know, very much, I would say, a supporter. Now I listen, I hear what's out there. I'm up to date. I check what's out there. The people I grew up on, they're older now, right? The people I grew up on, they're at a point where they've had their legend status, right? According to what a lot of people may say, they've got their legend status, right? The trend has always been something that we can always look back and say, okay, it was this type of style that worked in the 90s and 2000s. And since then, we've had moments of that sound being the thing that works. The sound of like the street, the sound of, your commercially viable rapper. But who is that, or where is that next generation that's going to say, this is the sound now? I want to speak about things from a positive standpoint, and it's going to be commercially viable because now we've got fans that have a changed mind. We've got environments that are changed and improved to now that be a viable thing. Will labels even get behind that? Because we know labels over the years, there's been talk about them having motives of pushing agendas. But if there's money involved and the agenda to push something positive is there, and it starts showing that it's a viable thing, from the support, from fans of independent people, independent artists, is that a thing for labels to consider more so, as opposed to the typical image that we've always had as I would say the prototype or the benchmark to make a artist, successful. So I think it's possible. I just think it's going to take a monumental effort to get the mind to change, to say, this is now cool. Because that's where rap is also about. Rap is also about being quote unquote cool. So if something is considered cool in certain environments, it has to be cool there first, and then it goes into the rap game. So the portrayals have to change, but the mentality has to change. Family units have to change. Fans have to change, have to decide and say, this is what I'm now going to be open to. But the mind has to make a decision. And if not, we're always going to get the same stuff that we hear. We've got to be honest, because some of your best rappers in the history of rap, let's be fair, when they talk about something from the street, a lot can glorify it. Let's be fair. Where it sounds lyrical, it sounds slick. So it's still able to have the impact, even if what they're saying could be negative, but it's just that they say it in such a slick way. And that's the art of rapping. You've got to have that ability, to make music in ways where, you've got skill. The struggle will be, like I say, the fact that we're so far gone into what we've seen in the world and what we've seen in rap, particularly as the standard, that are we willing to let go of that image that we've seen work, of the negative aspects of rap work? Are we ready to let that go and say, now we want this to work as well? The positive side. It doesn't matter where I'm at, what I'm going through, I'm going to always spin it positive. I'm always going to sound like a motivator when I rap. I'm going to motivate people. I'm going to make people feel that there's hope. Is that something that people want to hear? I think it's possible over many years as time goes by, but the human state, we like controversy, I have to say. We like a lot of the, edge that comes from music and situations, and anything that has some kind of, oh, did you see that? Did you hear that? Something that has a bit of, dirt on it. We gravitate to that. The clean, prim and proper, we kind of frown on it. And the thing is, fans of all backgrounds, it could be a fan that was born in the hood from the road. It can be a fan that is silver spoon in their mouth. We all like similar things. We will like the hardest rap, but it will be a struggle. But I think it's possible at the same time.